In October 1909, a demonstration took place here in the plaza in protest of the Diaz government in Mexico and the Taft-Hartley administration's involvement involving the United States military in Mexico. Taft was actually scheduled to visit the very next day, and we already had Secret Service already here monitoring the Los Angeles anarchist movement, and they vowed to make sure that any type of gathering that the anarchists were going to be involved in, that it would be instantly squashed. And so on October 10th, a protest here began, and a gentleman named Lazaro Gutierrez de Lara, who was a member of the Mexican Liberal Party, or the PLM, began speaking here in the center of the plaza. And he began talking about the Diaz regime, and at that point, the police, who began gathering on the outskirts of the plaza, allowed the protest to begin. But the moment Gutierrez de Lara began speaking about the Taft administration, police came in and immediately arrested him, right in the middle of his speech. Now, two of the main officers were two detectives named Talamantes and Rico. These two individuals were known, and you're going to hear their names throughout this whole tour, because these two guys were notorious for their harassment of the Mexican anarchist community, the PLM, and the Mexican community in general. They were known as extremely corrupt detectives, and later on would end up facing a trial because of their level of corruption. But these two gentlemen came in, or I don't want to use the word gentlemen, but these two detectives came in and arrested Gutierrez de Lara, at which point two other anarchists who were scheduled to speak, Bartolomeo Bertoni and Miguel Lozano. Bertoni was an Italian anarchist, Lozano was a Cuban anarchist, and both of them, who were scheduled to speak, actually attempted to stop the detectives and began protesting, at which point they were arrested on site as well. They were then taken down the street, and the police were marching them down to the police station. And another member of the PLM, a gentleman by the name of Carino Limon, began following them and leading a crowd of roughly about 500 individuals. He was quickly arrested when police came in and arrested him. Now, at that point, without a leader, because you had four individuals who were they were responsible for organizing this protest, were then arrested. The demonstration was continued by a woman that the LA Times referred to as a frumpy little cholo in a white dress and a turban hanging over her ear. So it kind of shows you the racism of the LA Times, right? So basically, she led the demonstration. She led the demonstration back here. At which point it continued for a few hours and then dissipated. Now, as far as the arrested individuals, Gutierrez de Lara was, hold on one second. Excuse me, I'm getting my incidents mixed up here. Gutierrez de Lara and Miguel Lozano were both accused of advocating anarchy and were handed over to the police for deportation, or handed over to the federal government for deportation, all based off of the fact that they were alleged anarchists. Now, Lozano was an anarchist, but Gutierrez de Lara was actually a socialist. And he had the liberal community and the socialist community all support him and began organizing demonstrations, at which point he was eventually released. Lozano, however, was an open anarchist and didn't necessarily receive the support by the socialist community or the liberal community. He embraced the fact that he was an anarchist, and because of that, he ended up being deported. The next day, another anarchist, I'm trying to find his name here. One second. Apparently I didn't put it down. But the next day, another anarchist was actually arrested when President Taft actually came around and circled the plaza. And apparently he then began to chase the Taft's car, and it would look like he was grabbing something in his pocket. Police arrested him, claiming that he was going to do President Taft harm. So he was arrested, but was later released. So now Lozano, hold on one second. Now Lozano continued to do his activities in Cuba, and actually created an anarchist paper called Fiat Lux while he was there. Gutierrez de Lara, however, after he was released, he continued to work with the PLM, and later on went across the border where he engaged in guerrilla campaign with, and I always butcher his name, so bear with me, Paredes Guerrero? What's that?